If anyone's giving you a voice prompt and saying, analyze your voice, and they're telling you to use a transcript, know that that person is full of bullshit. That is the first sign. Hey, it's Ronsley. Welcome, you AI geek, to Amplify AI. So what I'd love is maybe just sort of get some voices in here. Carrie, how have you been using AI, especially when it comes to your voice style? I suppose maybe that's more specific, but how have you been using AI? I'd love to have like some sort of grounding and getting some sort of idea of how people are using it right now so that we can focus a little bit.
Sure. I've been using it to help me write briefs, to help me write better contracts, to help me do creative writing in my own style.
What are your process? Like what tools are you using? What kind of prompts are you using?
So I've used your tool when I wrote marketing plan from Gary's book.
Oh yeah, I mean you use that. Can you tell us more about that? Like
Yeah.
how have you used that? What have you
Yeah,
used?
yeah, it was great. So you created a program and then I went in there and then I put in some of my key thoughts and assumptions and I got 24 pages and I think it was probably an hour and a half. So I asked what would be a good outline of a marketing plan for me to use to reach these goals, X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
And then I put just different assumptions in there, like for faster growth, assuming that I wanted to be unavoidable whenever anybody turned their social media on. Some of those kind of assumptions. I
Yeah.
even asked it what would be the best breakout by percentage of budget and percentage of time. I was pretty surprised. I was like, well, thought leadership should get 40% of the budget based on the
Hmm.
goals. I even asked for scorecards. I asked for different positions that we might need to accomplish this goal
Amazing.
and a
Amazing.
scorecard for each. Yeah. If there was
Yeah.
any reorgs needed to make it happen. So it was all based around the goals that I wanted, the social
So
tools
cool.
I was using.
So cool. Thanks, Carrie. Team in the chat, if you could just let me know how you're using AI, that would be very useful. Also, what is the one thing you'd love to get out of today? I want to share my screen and be of most use to you. So I want to kind of take each one of you, hopefully, and kind of maybe brainstorm and help you with AI, especially when it comes to your voice style and writing style. Now, I see this a lot and you hear this a lot that I'm using AI, but it just doesn't write the way I want it to, or it just doesn't do what I want it to do. And I want to say that you can get AI to hop on one foot if you wanted to. You just have to know how to ask it. Hey, you got to first pick the foot and you got to say, I want you to just hop on this part of the foot. Otherwise, you're going to not last for long if you're hopping on that foot. You got to be very specific as to how you want AI to do the work for you. And what is really disheartening is to see people who have no idea about AI talking about AI. And that's why you're getting the results you're getting, is because every bro marketer is now AI powered or AI driven or AI something. And they have no idea what they're doing, unfortunately. So in the chat, I'm going to wait. Can you please let me know how you're using AI right now? And then in the chat, if I can get everyone else to sort of put in how you're using artificial intelligence right now in your business, that would be amazing. Sheldon, what's going on, man?
Look, I'm basically a technology consultant, so I'm just catching up with what you guys are doing in this space and seeing how I can apply it to the businesses that I'm working with to help them do better, really. So my role, my job as a technology business analyst is to actually help the businesses that I work with get better and don't waste their time playing with AI when they're not going to be successful.
Well, amazing. And so what have you been using it so far? Have you tried anything? What has worked?
I've not done much at all because I've kicked around the space some years ago and when it was all programmed based stuff. Now we've got all the platforms now out and running. It's a matter of going, you need to know which platform you're going to use to get the result you're looking for. So if you're looking for, I guess, data analytics type stuff, you need to be able to know which platform and which tools to use to do your data analytics. Or if you're looking at content creation, what platforms do you need to take for the audience that you're talking to? Just as Carrie said, you got to look how your particular business's customers will react.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why AI, I think there's a misconception that AI or any new tool is going to fix all these issues. And it's like a button that's going to fix. It's not. It's like this there's business principles that work, there's marketing principles that work.
Yeah.
AI is just an accelerant.
That's right. So it's a matter of how that tool can be used to manage your particular or to solve your particular problem.
Yeah, your use case in particular. And I'm very flattered, by the way, because Sheldon's been in the IT space for ages. So good to have you here. Good to see all the responses in here as well. What I'd also love to know is what isn't working, okay? And I'm going to share my screen and just play a little bit. Now, one of the first things that I see a lot and see the most is people not getting AI to write like they want them to. So they'll get these really fancy prompts or, ask AI to analyze their writing style. But what they're using is a transcript. So this, by the way, is the first hack, okay, that you should know about. If anyone's giving you a voice prompt and saying, analyze your voice, and they're telling you to use a transcript, know that that person is full of bullshit. That is the first sign, because we don't write like we speak. So if we speak and we're analyzing the speech and then saying AI, write like how I speak, it'll sound like a retard or a 2-year-old. It's just not ready because we don't speak well. We don't. So use AI to analyze things that you like. So for example, I'm going to use this prompt, but when I say paste text here, and by the way, you can use this prompt in any of the large language models. So ChatGPT, you can use it. If you don't know groq.com, it's lightning fast. We'll try that. So Groq, it's free and you can use the different models here. I think Llama 3.1 is actually very, very good. So I'm going to use this model and I'm going to say, analyze my writing style. And what I'm going to use for my writing style is a copy of my book, if I can find it somewhere. So if I could maybe copy some of this and paste that. So now what it's done is, and see how fast that is. That's the advantage of Groq, by the way. Groq, there's a different Groq, Groq, which is Elon Musk's AI. But Groq is this lightning speed AI that is actually built on LPUs rather than GPUs. And it's like the hardware behind it is so fast that none of the other platforms can keep up. So these are little things that you got to understand with AI. Everyone thinks that AI is only one thing, but it's not. When Facebook first came out, everyone was like, that's social media. I'm a social media expert because I have a Facebook account. And that's what's happening right now, right? So it's done this, right? It's kind of broken down my writing style. And this is very useful because I can now say, can you write in this writing style? And I'm going to open double brackets only to delimitate the fact that in that little bracket is my writing style. And just notice how I'm writing prompts, okay? Understand my writing style and write me article on using ethical, efficient, effective AI to grow business, revenue, operations, brand, and audience. So you see what I'm doing here? I'm kind of going, first understand my writing style, then write me an article. So I'm saying, think this through step by step and give me a reasoning. Now, that one line, by the way, think this through step by step and give me a reasoning, is advanced prompting technique called chain of thought prompting. Okay, this is how you ask a large language model or any AI to think and think in a chain of thought process. You're telling it how you want it to think. If I said, think this through and give me your best answer, and it doesn't output the thinking, then it doesn't know that thinking when it takes that into account for any intelligence. Does that make sense? It cannot think and have that idea at the back of its head or mind and then expect it to call on that. It has to output that thinking for it to know that thinking is information to take it into the next prompt. So here's what it's done, right? Imagine having a superpower that allows you to make data-driven decisions, automate tedious tasks, and create personalized experiences for your customers. Sounds like science fiction, right? That is how I would start a line, a sentence. It couldn't have been any better, except for I would use real English and not US English with the Z. I would use S. It's probably the only difference. So it's got my writing style, but it hasn't gotten the content the way I wanted the content to be, right? Do you understand the difference? That the content is different and the writing style is different? Now, I've not given it any information around the content. I've just said, write me an article. So there's no context. Without context, the results are generalized. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And what I would love now is if you can tell me what you got out of that. Like, what was the biggest learning from what I just shared? And also, how are you going to apply it? And if there's any questions that I can answer.
The piece about telling it to think through step by step and give the reasoning so that you can then create a chain of thought for future prompts within that sequence. So good.
So that is one of multiple advanced prompting techniques. This chain of thought, this chain of logic, and those are only in the chains of sequence in recursion. There's also different other ways. There's RAG, where you specifically recall knowledge, retrieval augmented generation, that's called. So you're retrieving and then you're using AI on the retrieval. So there's all these different really important ways to understand how to work with artificial intelligence. Is there any way that you would use that, or that popped in your head that I'm going to use this in this use case?
Well, for my coaching work, I use spiral dynamics and a bunch of different models and then interplay with the models. So I have been using with Claude this kind of sequence where I've input specific things and had a sequence of questions, but I haven't asked it to give the reasoning. So I think that will help.
The more important line in that is to think this through step by step.
Yeah.
Give me your reasoning is only because you want to see what,
so you can see it.
What's the work, right?
What's the workflow?
Or like, how is it thinking? And you can then correct the thinking, because you're asking it to think step by step, but what if that thinking is not aligned with the way you wanted to think?
Exactly.
That's why you're asking for the reasoning.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So it's, you can check, you can check its work basically and check its logic.
Because it's making a lot of assumptions because of your lack of context or our lack of context. If we don't give the right context, it's like, okay, I'm going to assume, I'm going to make these assumptions. And it's just like a human. We do the same thing, right? We make a lot of assumptions.
So I also agree with Kylie. I like that sequencing of thought, because in the past I've asked it to provide its sources, but not necessarily give me its thought process about why it put, certain things together, certain logic. So I also appreciate that.
Cool. Is there any place, Annalise, that you would use that in particular?
Sometimes in gathering information and certain industries, depending on the business that I'm talking to get a little understanding of them. So asking it why it's giving me this advice or why it's telling me may be helpful, right, in certain industries that I'm not intimately familiar with.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So there are multiple tools, obviously, that you can use. You can use ChatGPT, you can use Claude, you can use Groq, and everyone will ask me which is the best. None of them are the best, unfortunately. And I don't have one size fits all answer for you. But I will say that there are two things that you got to understand when it comes to large language models, in particular, AI. The first thing is the training data that it's trained on. Okay, what is the training data? And that you can think of that as long-term memory. So what is its long-term memory? What's the data that it's been trained on? And that's usually in the billions and trillions of tokens, and that's how it's represented. The second and not spoken about enough factor is the context window. So that's short-term memory. How much does it remember when it's executing the prompt right now? So different models will have different variations of that. So for example, in ChatGPT, the 4o and the 4 are big models. 4o mini is a small model, which means that it's trained on a smaller data size, and this is trained on a larger data size. And that's what the mini means in all these different places. So here, Claude Sonnet, Haiku is their small version. It's fast. And that will go for any other large language model. So even with Gemini, they'll have an advanced and a normal. The bigger the training data, the more complex tasks that large language model can handle, in the sense that it can make a lot of neural connections as a result of the fact that it's trained on larger data. But you might not need that for some of the tasks, like writing an email or writing copy. Your small mini model is very, very useful because it doesn't need all those neural connections for it to do those kind of things. The second variable here, which is the context window, is how much does it remember when it's executing the prompt. Now, in ChatGPT, I think it's between 64,000 tokens and 120,000 tokens, depending on what model you're using. In Claude, that is over 200,000 tokens. In Gemini, that's 2 million tokens. So what that means is, if you put a book, for example, if I put my book into ChatGPT and I say, tell me about the book, it'll only read or remember the first 64,000 tokens or the last 64,000 tokens, because it's only keeping that in memory and then it's executing the prompt on that memory. So it's not going to give me the full breakdown. However, I know that my book can fit into Sonnet and it'll give me a full breakdown, because inside Sonnet, under projects, I've got an Amplify brand project that I've created here. And in this project, which is a combination of a bunch of project knowledge, I'm saying, these are my custom instructions. This is my bio. This is a membership. This is my plan. This is my book. This is my day trading attention audience. Carrie, you'll know what that means. This is my brand style guide. And this is my brand identity. So, and I'm also saying, by the way, I want you to first understand all these things before you execute any prompt in here. So I'm giving it all this context, and it's telling me that I've still only used 66% of my knowledge base. So that I know that it's remembering all that when it's executing stuff.
Hey, AI Geek. Thanks for listening. Your job doesn't stop here. I want you to lend your voice to the conversation. So you can join those conversations, discussions, new trainings, new recordings, and the rest of the AI Geeks by going to aigeeks.co. Also, share this podcast with a friend, another potential AI geek. Until then, much love.